Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Monday, July 8th, 2019. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Soretta. And joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Weekend Editor Brad Oman.
Hey, that's me.
And writer Wai Tran Bui.
Hey, everyone.
So I still have this huge mold problem in my bedroom, which is also my home studio is my walk-in closet. So I'm recording in my living room. So if I sound different, that is why. Hopefully that will be resolved this week before Comic-Con. But I wanted to ask you guys, what did you guys do on July 4th? Did you do anything exciting?
I don't know if exciting is the word necessarily, but I did go to a friend's house for just a good old-fashioned cookout. Had some burgers and hot dogs and hung out with friends and fired off fireworks. I did discover a cool used bookstore that's kind of like an FYE if FYE sold like a shitload more books. I don't know if it's it's a chain or if it's just like a regional thing, but it's called Second and Charles, and they buy, sell, and trade video games, movies, books. They also have like a bunch of toys. And so I went there and I just looked through their used books and I found some really good stuff. Like I bought the hardcover making of the entire Dark Knight trilogy for $4, and it was in incredible condition. And I found some other good buys while I was there too.
Very cool. HT, what were you doing this? Yeah.
Oh, I went to the beach. A couple friends of mine and I went to Jacob Riis Beach at the Rockaways, and we just spent the day there. We didn't do much eating, actually. Did more of the drinking, I guess you would say, and which wasn't a good idea overall because, you know, the heat and then the dehydration, I just ended up passing out, actually, and not seeing a lot of the later night festivities. So, but it was fun. I got actually a little burned too, which is very rare for me because I'm a little on the tan side, so it takes a lot for me to burn, and that happened, but it was a lot of fun otherwise.
Yeah, same with me. It's hard for me to get a tan, but it happens sometimes. I went over a friend's house and had a barbecue, and it's so weird because I moved from the East Coast. I used to live in Massachusetts to, here in Los Angeles. And back in Massachusetts, fireworks were illegal. And I mean, not that people didn't set them off, but they would like drive to like Maine or New Hampshire and buy fireworks and then bring them back over the border and set them off. But it seems like here, like you can buy fireworks anywhere, and everybody in the valley is just like setting off fireworks like in their backyards, like just going insane. I'm glad my dogs do not have a problem with fireworks because there were fireworks everywhere. And it seems like, judging by Instagram, everybody has learned how to record fireworks in slow motion with their iPhones and post them on Instagram. That's like the thing. So, anyways, let's talk about let's talk about the news. Actually, I'll start things off really quickly because I did end up going not on July 4th, but on July 5th. I went to Universal Studios Hollywood. I got a new annual pass, and I was going to talk about this on the water cooler, but I think this is good to talk about in the news segment. They have soft opened Jurassic World: The Ride, and this is the redo of the Jurassic Park ride that has been there since the 90s. And by soft opening means technical rehearsals, so it's not officially opening. It's not officially open. Not everything is working properly. Like the water cannons at the end of the ride are not working properly. So my review reaction is I guess it could be compared to going to the previews of a play or something like that. So, I did post a video online of the whole experience of going to Jurassic World: The Ride. It is updated with most of the actors from the new franchise. So Chris Pratt, BD Wong, Bryce Dallas Howard, they're all in the Q videos. There's some videos in the ride. The ride itself has been updated with this new opening sequence that brings your raft. You're in this like raft-like vehicle, and it's basically one of those like splash drop rides, kind of like Splash Mountain. It's the same ride as it was before. I'm sure everybody knows what Jurassic Park the ride is, but they updated it with, so now the first scene is your raft goes through this tunnel in the Mosasaurus Aquarium Lagoon. So you come in contact with the Mosasaurus, and it is these screens. I was kind of worried that Universal Studios was going to be replacing all these animatronic dinosaurs with screens, and my fears were not completely wrong, but it is really cool because the Mosasaurus is like swimming around you, and at first it like eats this shark, kind of like it does in the movie, and the water kind of overflows from the aquarium and like completely drenches you. I don't know. It was really cool. And, they updated like the end sequence of the ride as well. So it includes the T-Rex battling the Indominus Rex. And they also have this really cool blue animatronic. But anyways, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. You can check that out, watch the whole ride through video. I will say it does, I think just in the nature of like the color scheme of Jurassic World, it's kind of like this like sanitized modern like look. It lacks the charm and character of Jurassic Park. I guess people would probably say that about the movies as well. But overall, I'm glad to see it get a do-over because some of these dinosaur animatronics have been kind of just like sitting in the sun for, decades now and have not been working well. So now it was amazing to see them in action. And we waited 2.5 hours to get on this ride. So check out that video. I'll link it in the show notes. Let's talk. Oh, wait, actually, have either of you been on Jurassic Park the ride?
I have not.
Yeah, I went on it several times when I lived in California back in 2009. And it was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. It was, it's a pretty simple ride that ends, in a big water splashdown. But I really like doing it.
Yeah. Are you upset they have made it Jurassic World the ride, Brad?
I don't know if I would say upset. Like the way theme parks goes, they always have to update to make it more modern anyway. And as it was, the animatronics that were in that ride were fairly outdated already, so yeah. An update's probably a good idea. I wish they would have still stuck with the Jurassic Park branding instead of Jurassic World branding, but that's just me nitpicking.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some people cringing as they see Bryce Dallas Howard's character come on screen during the ride itself, but overall I think it's good. So check out that video in the show notes. Speaking of Jurassic World, a story that we missed last week, it came after we finished recording, and that is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom filmmaker J.A. Bayona is set to direct the Lord of the Rings series for Amazon. HD, what do we know?
So Amazon has tapped J.A. Bayona, who has recently directed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, to direct the first 2 episodes of the fantasy epic series, which is sort of a prequel to the events of J.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings trilogy. And this will Bayona will also serve as an executive producer for the series alongside his partner, Belen Atienza. And that's the extent of his participation in the series as far as we know, but as an executive producer and as a director for the first 2 episodes, it seems that Bayona will be sort of establishing the look and the tone of this series.
What do you think about that? Because I know you're a big Lord of the Rings fan. They almost had Guillermo del Toro almost directed the Hobbit trilogy, and I guess Bayona is kind of in that same world, right?
Yeah. To be honest, this is a bit of a weird choice. I think that Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a big mess of a movie, mostly because of its script. And to be fair, Bayona brings a good visual flair to the film. So perhaps that's what Amazon is looking for when they want to establish their Lord of the Rings series. But I don't really know. Like, I guess horror and fantasy do intermix, especially when you talk about the earlier years of of Middle Earth. So perhaps this could work out. But yeah, it's a strange choice, and I know that it's fairly unpopular among people who really dislike Jurassic World. I was a little bit more lukewarm to it. But I do think that it looks really beautiful. So perhaps that is a vote of confidence for Bayona taking the reins for this, the first 2 episodes at least of the series.
Well, Peter Jackson also came from horror. We can't forget about that.
That's true. That's true. So maybe we're all just a little bit peeved by Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah. Plus, if you look at A Monster Calls, that's got some pretty good fantasy style to it as well, and I think that lends itself most to showing that he can probably do something pretty cool with Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I get the sense with Jurassic World and some of the stuff he's been like attaching himself to, that it seems like he wants to expand beyond horror. And I'm just wondering what this Lord of the Rings series is, other than it being maybe a kind of like Game of Thrones wannabe show for Amazon. But we'll have to see. It'll be interesting. Let's move on from Lord of the Rings to Comic-Con. We've been talking a lot about what is not going to be at Comic-Con, and over the weekend they revealed that Marvel Studios is actually confirmed for Comic-Con. Brad, what do we know?
Yes, Marvel Studios sat out Comic-Con last year since we were kind of in between Infinity War and Endgame, and there wasn't really anything for them to announce without spoiling what happens in Endgame. But this year they're coming back with a vengeance. Marvel Studios will have their traditional Saturday panel in Hall H, and it'll be about 90 minutes long. Again, we don't necessarily know what it is they're going to specifically announce, except that it will be about the movies that are coming over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe a little bit more. Kevin Feige had previously said that they weren't going to announce any of the future slate until after Spider-Man Far From Home hit theaters, and now that that's out, the time has come for them to reveal their plans. We already kind of have an idea of what to expect. The Black Widow movie is shooting right now. There's been casting going on for the Eternals. We know James Gunn is coming back for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. There's a director hired for Shang-Chi. But beyond that, movies-wise, the only things we have to guess at are just sequels for franchises like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, maybe Thor. So we're not sure how far out they will let us know what's going on. Traditionally, I think that it's usually been like 2 or 3 years, right, Peter?
Yeah, except for that one time that they did that El Capitan event where they like announced like the whole phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe up through Infinity War. But I'm not sure.
That ended up changing a lot, didn't it, though? Because weren't they still like thinking about doing Inhumans at that point?
Yeah, that was part of that whole reported struggle between Ike and Feige. But I don't think that Feige and Marvel and Disney want to announce that far out. Like, it seemed like it was probably a bad idea to go that far out. I mean, it was good for fans because we had a lot to look forward to, but I'm guessing it's going to be what you said, like 2 or 3 years worth of content.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they'll probably show some Black Widow footage, since by the time Comic-Con comes around, they'll have been shooting for like a little over a month, and they're usually pretty quick about putting together footage for like a quick Comic-Con exclusive trailer or sizzle reel or something like that.
Yeah.
There have been some rumblings that maybe they're going to stage some kind of final original Avengers reunion after Endgame as kind of a quick like farewell and like thanks to the fans and whatnot.
You think Robert Downey Jr. might show up?
I think it's entirely possible, especially, they gave him quite a send-off, and it would be kind of cool for him to come back, one last time for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's not, especially when you have Game of Thrones doing a victory lap and that kind of thing. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
HT, this is going to be your first Comic-Con. Are you excited for the Marvel presentation?
I'm excited and nervous because I know that this is going to be just a whirlwind of news and everything and nonstop work. But I am excited. I can't wait. This is especially with Marvel now announcing their panel. I'm hoping it won't just be a victory lap like Brad is saying, that we'll see something from the future. But if we get to see some of the Avengers cast show up, that would be amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, Marvel, I don't think there's been one time that Marvel showed up in Hall H and didn't bring it. So I anticipate that it's going to be something to look forward to. Every year at Comic-Con, it is busier and more packed, and it just seems like this convention has been outgrowing San Diego, and for years now, Comic-Con has been threatening to leave San Diego. But it looks like that's not happening because they have extended their deal with the city through 2024. HT, what do we know?
Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con won't have to change its title anytime soon because Comic-Con International has extended its current agreement with the San Diego Convention Center Corps by another 3 years. It was due to expire in 2021, but it will now be kept for at least through 2024. And this is a deal that basically enables a significant discount for Comic-Con International renting the center. The San Diego Union Tribune, which reported this story, says that in 2023, Comic-Con International will be paying $177,000, roughly a $370,000 discount. So this is, something that is kind of a cause for controversy because exhibitors have long criticize the increasingly small space that is now accommodating more and more exhibitors, panels, attendees, etc. But potentially this will be where San Diego Comic-Con will stay for the foreseeable future.
I really wonder, I feel like the city of San Diego has been making these promises to Comic-Con for years and years. They're like, we'll build more hotels. And it seems like they never quite get to the point of what they're promising. Brad, do you think that Comic-Con is going to stay in San Diego forever? Or do you think they'll eventually make the move to some place that has more room, like Las Vegas?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like San Diego gets so much of a benefit to their economy when Comic-Con rolls in, especially because it's not all the money's not just in the convention itself. There's all the people that go outside to the areas just outside the convention center because there's so many off-site things that happen. And so I feel like they'll hopefully do whatever they can to keep it there. I think moving it would turn into such a logistical nightmare for people who plan Comic-Con and for people who plan their visit to Comic-Con because it would require such a drastic change in procedures and how things work and where to go and all that stuff. So I'm moving it feels like just as much of a headache as dealing with the crowds at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of that convention expansion or convention center expansion, according to this report, San Diego's government is holding a public vote next year to determine whether there will be an increase in San Diego's hotel tax to help finance an expanded convention center. So perhaps this will be something that's up to the public vote, of course, but that's also another potential factor in this.
Interesting. Okay, we'll keep an eye on this. Let's talk about Back to the Future 4, or let's not talk about Back to the Future 4, but apparently Christopher Lloyd is talking about it because, I'm sure people are interviewing him, and that's one of the questions, the go-to questions. Brad, does Christopher Lloyd want another sequel?
I don't necessarily know that he wants another sequel, but he has said in a recent appearance at the Niagara Falls Comic-Con last month that he would be happy to do it if he were asked to. But if it happened, he kind of had these hopes of what the movie might do as far as what the message might be. During his response to a question during a Q&A panel, he said, if there were a Back to the Future 4, quote, I think it somehow needs to kind of convey a message about something that's important to everyone, universally, like climate change. Some way of incorporating whatever fever is going on at the moment into the film and keep it the feeling of 1, 2, and 3. That's a tricky deal because you don't want to do another one and disappoint. So I don't know. I'd be happy to for myself, but we'll see. And that sounds kind of just like a general, response that isn't really a response because obviously no one's working on Back to the Future 4. Of course, most of the cast is going to be happy to do it if the opportunity comes around. But it's one of those things where we know it's not going to happen because Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have already said there won't be a reboot or anything like that as long as they're alive. It's literally in their contract. I think it is that they control what happens with that franchise. So unless some crazy, awesome, fantastic idea comes around, it's probably not in the cards. And as a diehard Back to the Future fan, I don't want to see it. I feel like it would just end up being really sad because Christopher Lloyd is very old now. Michael J. Fox, even though he's doing okay with his Parkinson's symptoms, he's still not, the Michael J. Fox he was in the original Back to the Future trilogy, and I just feel like it wouldn't really work.
Yeah. It's my favorite movie of all time, and I do not want a sequel. One of the things that Ben, who wrote the story up, he embedded in this story. I'm betting most people have not seen this, but there was a special that aired on ABC in 1990 called the Earth Day Special, and it was this narrative story that basically Mother Earth, played by Bette Midler, falled from the sky. She fainted and was rushed to the hospital, where she was attended by Doogie Howser, played by Neil Patrick Harris. And it was one of those specials that had just an ensemble and celebrity cast. And at one point during the special, Doc Brown has to go back to the future to save the Earth. Bugs Bunny, the Muppets, E.T. were also in the special, but the clip of Doc Brown in the special that Ben included is worth your time. It's insane that it even exists. But
what is this special?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was supposed to be like a warning sign in 1990. So that was way before, An Inconvenient Truth and all that, that whole movement. But it is ridiculous. It is super ridiculous. I'm sure the whole thing's probably available online somewhere, but the clip, Ben embedded just has the Doc Brown part where I think he has an interaction with Doogie Howser. So if you ever wanted to see a Back to the Future Doogie Howser, mashup, crossover, there you go. So, but HD, tell me about this Akira, sequel series that's coming.
Yeah, so on the heels of news that Taika Waititi's embattled Akira live-action feature film is kicking into gear, original creator Katsuhiro Otomo has confirmed that he is working on a new Akira anime series, and this will be a sequel to his original 1988 film that became a cult classic and a global sensation. And there aren't many details about what this series will entail. He revealed this news at a panel at Anime Expo in Los Angeles, and it will be produced by Bandai Namco Sunrise. But according to Anime News Network, this sequel series will incorporate the entirety of the manga story. So the manga was also created by Katsuhiro Otomo, and this was published before the 1988 film came out. It basically ran from 82 to 1990 and was condensed and told the first part of the story in his film. So this will follow the events potentially of this manga series and definitely expand more from what we see in the film. And this comes also on the heels of an Akira 4K restoration that will be coming to Blu-ray in 2020.
So I know you're a big anime fan. What is your feelings on Akira in general anyways?
I saw Akira only last year, I think, and this is a truly disturbing anime film. It's something that I respect for being so groundbreaking and for the animation being so spectacular. But it's a film that definitely does not pull its punches in terms of its depiction of this post-apocalyptic Neo-Tokyo in which a gang of juvenile bikers, one of them accidentally acquires telekinetic powers and kind of becomes almost a nuclear bomb in waiting. There's a lot of really fascinating cultural context that can be unpacked in this film, in which I'm probably not qualified to talk about, but it's such a great and challenging and weird film, and I don't know how or if it can be translated to live action. I mean, at its core, it's a pretty basic action film. It's about like I said, a group of teen bikers who accidentally get involved in this sort of massive government cover-up after one of their members in an accident gains telekinetic powers and starts to become more and more mentally unstable. And as he discovers like the origins of these powers, he basically is kind of ground zero for another potential apocalyptic explosion that could potentially destroy all of Neo Tokyo. At the same time, there is a rebellion against the militant government as well. So it's a really rich, really layered story, and a lot of the success of this movie also comes from just the astonishing
Imagery.
animation style
Yeah.
and the imagery for sure. Something that's influenced not only anime films but live action films all across the globe. It was kind of the thing that helped spark the spread of anime beyond Japanese borders and onto a global stage, just because of how impressive it is. And yes, it's a film that like I didn't quite enjoy watching, but I really admire, just because there's some imagery in it that's really grotesque and really disturbing, but it's so good. And I probably will try checking out the 4K remaster, because I only saw it like on my computer in not total legal ways. So I would love to see this in its full high definition. And I'm curious too to see how Otomo expands this story, because it does work really well as a self-contained story, but I want to see how much more and how much deeper he can get into this the world of Neo Tokyo.
It's interesting because, you mentioned that live action Akira adaptation, and they've been trying to adapt that for like a decade now. And ever since I think that started, they've been saying that it was going to be an adaptation of the manga, which the sequel series is going to be a part of. So I guess it would be a more wide in scope than that original anime. Do you know anything about the manga? Like, is it worth expanding this movie into a sequel series?
I can't say I do. I haven't read it. I do know that there are more characters. It's much more complex. I don't think that's a good idea for a live action film, because the mythology was already pretty complex as it was in the original animated film. So I feel like a lot of the problems that anime adaptations have had is that they try to take on too much and it ends up being really bulky and clunky. So I don't really know if that's the best idea. But also at the same time, like trying something different rather than doing a straight adaptation of such an iconic film does kind of make sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think we've hit the end of today's episode. You can find more of all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find links to all the stories we mentioned today in the show notes, including that Jurassic World, The Ride POV video. This podcast, Slash Film Daily, is published every weekday on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And please rate and read this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends. Spread the word. We'll see you tomorrow.